What if you could pick fresh, ripe fruit right off your own tree without owning a single acre of land? No orchard, no sprawling backyard, just a sunny patio or balcony railing. It sounds too simple, but it's true, and the secret is choosing the right trees. Today we're covering 8 of the highest yield dwarf fruit trees for containers and small spaces, and by the end you'll know exactly which ones deserve a spot in your garden. One of these can keep producing fruit for over 50 years in the same pot. Let's get into it. Container fruit gardening keeps growing in popularity, and it's not hard to see why. More people are living in smaller homes and smaller lots, yet the desire to grow real, edible food hasn't gone anywhere. Dwarf fruit trees solve that problem perfectly. They're not weak or stunted versions of full-size trees, they're grafted or naturally compact varieties, bred to stay small, while still producing full-flavor fruit. In a container, harvesting is easier because everything's within reach. Pruning is far more manageable, pests are easier to spot early, and you can move the whole tree to chase better sun or dodge an early frost. Welcome to Harvest Smarter, a channel built around practical, science-based gardening advice, and honestly, a growing community of gardeners at every experience level learning together. If you subscribe, you'll get new videos every week covering fruit trees, vegetable gardening, raised beds, organic techniques, seasonal planting, and soil care. But subscribing here is about more than just notifications. It's about joining a group of people who genuinely enjoy swapping ideas and celebrating each other's harvests. Before we get into the list, there's something worth pausing on, because here's a truth that surprises a lot of new gardeners. More container fruit trees are lost in the first 10 minutes of planting than in the entire year that follows. Not from bad weather, not from pests, but from the way they went into the pot in the first place. So let's walk through it properly, once, and you'll carry this with you for every tree on today's list. Start by choosing a container with real drainage, not just 1 or 2 token holes, but several, since a fruit tree sitting in trapped water is a tree slowly drowning from the roots up. Add a couple of inches of coarse material, broken pottery or gravel works fine, at the base before the soil goes in, just enough to keep that drainage hole from clogging. Now the part almost everyone rushes, taking the tree out of its nursery pot. Turn it on its side, never yank it by the trunk, and ease the root ball free. Look closely at the roots. If they're circling tightly around the outside like a coiled spring, that tree has been in that little pot too long, and if you plant it exactly as it is, those roots will keep circling forever, slowly strangling the tree from within. This is the moment that decides everything, so take a clean tool and gently score 4 vertical lines down the sides of the root ball, about an inch deep. Then tease the cut edges loose with your fingers. It looks aggressive, and it feels wrong the first time you do it, but it's exactly what tells those roots to stop circling and start growing outward into their new home. Fill your container about 1/3 of the way with fresh potting mix suited to that particular tree, settle the root ball on top, and check the height before you commit to anything. The point where the trunk flares out at the base, or the graft union if your tree has one, should sit an inch or so above the final soil line, never buried beneath it. Bury that graft union and, as we mentioned earlier with the dwarf apple, you risk the tree losing its dwarf habit altogether and outgrowing the very container you planted it in. Backfill around the roots gradually, firming gently as you go to remove air pockets, but resist the urge to pack it down hard, since fruit tree roots need loose, breathable soil to spread. Once it's in, water slowly and deeply until it runs from the drainage holes, which settles the soil around every root far better than any amount of firming by hand. Finish with a light layer of mulch on top, keeping it a couple of inches clear of the trunk itself, which locks in moisture and buffers the roots against temperature swings. One last thing that catches people off guard: a newly planted tree often looks worse before it looks better. A few dropped leaves, a slightly sulky appearance, as it adjusts to its new roots and new home. That's normal, not a failure, so resist the temptation to overwater or over-fertilize in those first few weeks. Give it steady, correct care, and within a season it settles in and starts doing exactly what it's built to do. Get that foundation right, and everything else in this video becomes far easier. Now, let's get into our list, starting with number 1. 1. Blueberry dwarf. Blueberries might not be the first thing you picture as a fruit tree, but they're compact, ornamental, and genuinely productive, staying between 18 inches and 3 feet tall. Use a 15 to 20 gallon container filled with acidic soil, ideally 4.5 to 5.5 pH, since regular potting mix will leave you disappointed. Give at least 6 hours of full sun, keep the soil evenly moist, and feed with an acid-forming fertilizer in early spring. Here's a tip many gardeners miss. Planting 2 different varieties nearby boosts fruit set, even on types labeled self-fertile. Hardy in Uzda zones 4 through 8. Blueberries fruit in early to midsummer, yielding 1 to 5 pounds per plant once established. The most common beginner mistake is using neutral pH soil, which causes yellowing leaves and weak fruiting. Pruning is minimal. Just remove a few old canes each winter, and net the plant as berries ripen since birds are the real threat here. Pick berries when they're fully blue, with a light silvery bloom. They're wonderful fresh, frozen for later, or baked into jams. But blueberries are just the start. As we move up this list, things get more fragrant, more unusual, and more rewarding. Plant 2, kumquats, are one of those fruits people are surprised to learn they can grow at home. They're eaten whole, peel and all, giving you a sweet skin, tart flesh combination in a single bite. Dwarf kumquat trees stay 3 to 6 feet tall in a 10 to 15 gallon container, with well-draining, slightly acidic soil around 6.0 to 6.5 pH. Give 6 to 8 hours of direct sun, water once the topsoil dries out, and feed with a citrus fertilizer through the growing season. They're self-pollinating, so one tree is all you need. Hardy outdoors in zones 9 through 11, but easy to grow indoors near a bright window elsewhere. Harvest runs late fall through winter, and a mature tree can yield anywhere from 50 to several hundred small fruits, though it typically takes 2 to 3 years to get there, so patience really pays off. Prune to keep the canopy open for airflow, and watch for aphids and scale, both manageable with insecticidal soap. Snip the fruit rather than pulling it to avoid bruising. Kumquats are popular eaten fresh, candied, or turned into marmalade. One simple mistake can cost you your whole harvest with the next tree, so pay close attention here. Plant 3, Dwarf Banana. Yes, you really can grow bananas in a container. Dwarf varieties reach 4 to 8 feet, remarkably compact for a plant that can normally top 20 feet. Give it a large pot, 20 to 25 gallons, filled with rich, slightly acidic soil. Bananas want full sun, constant warmth, and generous, frequent watering, since their broad leaves lose moisture quickly. Feed heavily with a potassium-rich fertilizer throughout the growing season, as these are famously hungry plants. Most fruiting varieties are self-fertile. They're only hardy outdoors in zones 9 through 11, though container growers elsewhere simply bring them indoors for winter, almost like an oversized houseplant. A healthy plant can produce a full bunch of 20 to 50 bananas within 12 to 18 months of steady growth. The most common mistakes are underwatering, underfeeding, and expecting fruit far too soon. There's not much traditional pruning involved, just remove spent leaves and unwanted suckers, and watch for spider mites in dry indoor air. Interestingly, the banana plant isn't a true tree at all botanically. It's actually the largest herbaceous flowering plant in the world. Harvest the entire stalk once the top hand of fruit starts to yellow, then let the rest ripen indoors at room temperature. There's another reason experienced gardeners love what's coming next, and it's not just about the fruit. Plant 4 Dwarf Fig figs are prized for their sweet honeyed fruit and their bold, attractive leaves, and they're remarkably forgiving compared to fussier trees. A dwarf fig reaches 4 to 6 feet in a 15 to 20 gallon container, tolerating a wide soil pH range from 6.0 to 7.5. Give it full sun, water deeply and regularly through the growing season, then cut back sharply once the tree drops its leaves and goes dormant. Fertilize lightly, since figs actually fruit better with modest feeding rather than heavy doses. Most varieties are self-fertile, no second tree required. Hardy in zones 7 through 11 depending on variety, figs can even produce 2 harvests a year, and a mature plant can yield 10 to 20 pounds of fruit. The most common mistakes are overwatering during winter dormancy, which rots the roots, and over-fertilizing with nitrogen, which produces leaves at the expense of fruit. Prune in late winter, removing about a third of old growth to keep new fruiting wood coming. Watch for fig rust in humid climates, and keep good airflow through the canopy. Figs have been cultivated for over 5,000 years, making them one of the oldest domesticated fruits on record. Pick figs only when fully soft, since unlike many fruits, they won't ripen further once removed from the branch. Enjoy them fresh, paired with cheese, or dried for later. Before moving on, here's an important tip that applies to nearly every tree on this list. Container size matters just as much as sunlight and water. Plant 5. Dwarf Apple. Dwarf apples bring a classic, familiar fruit into even the smallest garden, staying 6 to 10 feet tall when grafted onto true dwarfing rootstock. Use a 20 to 25 gallon container filled with well-draining soil around 6.0 to 6.8 pH. Apples need 6 to 8 hours of sun and deep, consistent watering, along with a balanced fruit tree fertilizer in spring. Here's the detail that trips up most beginners. Most apple varieties are not self-fertile, so you'll need a second, different apple variety nearby for pollination, or fruit set will be poor. Hardy across zones 3 through 8, apples harvest from late summer into fall, and a mature tree can yield 40 to 80 pounds in a good year. The two biggest mistakes are skipping that pollinator tree and planting the graft union too deep, which causes the tree to lose its dwarf size entirely. Prune in late winter to open up the canopy for light and airflow, and watch for codling moth and apple scab. Interestingly, nearly all apple trees, dwarf or otherwise, are grafted rather than grown from seed, since seeds don't reliably reproduce the parent fruit. Harvest apples with a gentle upward twist once their background color shifts away from green. They're excellent fresh, baked into pies, or pressed into cider. Now, which of these would you grow first? Drop a comment and let me know. I'd genuinely love to hear it, and your experience might help another gardener figure out their own space. If you're enjoying this, consider subscribing to Harvest Smarter for more guides on fruit trees, vegetables, raised beds, and soil care, and join a community of gardeners learning and growing right alongside you. We've still got 4 trees left, and they might be the most impressive on this whole list. Plant 6. Meyer Lemon. The Meyer lemon is the most popular container citrus in North America, prized for its sweeter, less acidic flavor and intensely fragrant blossoms. It stays 3 to 6 feet tall in a 15 to 25 gallon pot, in well-draining, slightly acidic soil around 6.0 to 6.5 pH. Give it at least 8 hours of sun, water deeply once the topsoil dries, and feed with a citrus fertilizer every 4 to 6 weeks during the growing season. It's self-pollinating, though gently hand-pollinating helps fruit set indoors. Hardy in zones 9 through 11 outdoors, but genuinely popular in colder climates since it thrives when simply brought indoors for winter. Meyer lemons fruit almost continuously, with the heaviest flush in winter and early spring, yielding anywhere from 20 to over 100 lemons a year on a mature tree. Common mistakes include letting the pot sit in standing water, which suffocates the roots, and moving the tree suddenly from shade into strong sun, which shocks the leaves. Prune lightly throughout the year, and watch for aphids, scale, and spider mites, especially indoors during winter. Genetically, the Meyer lemon isn't a true lemon at all. It's a natural hybrid between a lemon and either an orange or mandarin, which explains its sweetness. Harvest when the fruit turns deep yellow-orange and gives slightly to pressure. It's fantastic for lemonade, baking, and zesting. Plant 7. Dwarf Peach. Few homegrown fruits taste as dramatically better than store-bought as a tree-ripened peach. Dwarf and genetic dwarf varieties stay 4 to 8 feet tall in a 20 to 25 gallon container, with well-draining, slightly acidic soil. Peaches demand 6 to 8 hours of sun, more than almost any tree on this list, along with consistent watering as fruit develops and a balanced fertilizer in early spring. Most varieties are self-fertile, hardy in zones 5 through 8. They harvest in mid to late summer, and a mature container tree can yield 30 to 50 pounds in a good year. There are 2 mistakes to avoid here: skipping fruit thinning, which leaves you with smaller fruit and branches that can snap under the weight, and skipping dormant season pruning, since peaches fruit almost exclusively on 1-year-old wood. Prune into an open vase shape each winter, and treat for peach leaf curl and brown rot with a dormant application before buds break. Peaches are believed to have originated in China thousands of years ago, where they were long considered a symbol of longevity. Harvest, once the skin shifts from green to gold, and gives slightly near the stem. Wonderful fresh, baked into cobblers, or turned into preserves. Plant 8. Dwarf Pomegranate. Closing out our list, the Dwarf Pomegranate offers brilliant orange-red blossoms, jewel-toned fruit, and remarkable resilience compared to everything else here. It stays 3 to 6 feet tall in a 15 to 20-gallon pot, tolerating a wide soil pH range from 5.5 to 7.2. It wants 6 to 8 hours of sun, but is genuinely drought-tolerant once established, so let the soil dry out somewhat between waterings and feed lightly just twice a year. Most varieties are self-fertile. Hardy in zones 7 through 10, it fruits from early to late fall, yielding 10 to 30 fruits annually on a well-established plant. Harvest patiently, since pomegranates don't continue ripening once picked, and go easy on the water, which this tree tolerates far less gracefully than most fruit trees. Pruning is minimal, just remove suckers and dead wood in late winter. It's notably pest-resistant, which along with its drought tolerance and compact size, arguably makes it the most forgiving tree on this entire list, and with basic care it can keep producing for decades. Pomegranates have been cultivated for thousands of years across the Middle East and South Asia. Harvest when the fruit is deeply colored, cutting rather than pulling it from the branch. The seeds, called arils, are eaten fresh, sprinkled over salads, or juiced. Conclusion. So that's all 8. The easy, low-fuss blueberry, the fragrant kumquat, the tropical dwarf banana, the resilient fig, the classic dwarf apple, the sweet Meyer lemon, the juicy dwarf peach, and the wonderfully forgiving dwarf pomegranate. If you're just getting started, my honest advice is to pick 1 or 2 trees rather than trying to grow all 8 at once, and let that experience build your confidence before you expand further. Fruit trees reward patience more than ambition, and a couple of well-cared-for trees will always outperform a crowded, neglected patio. Thank you so much for spending this time with Harvest Smarter today. If this video helped, please like it, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a future guide. And know that subscribing means joining a community of gardeners who genuinely enjoy sharing ideas and celebrating each other's harvests, so feel free to share your own gardening story in the comments too. It might be exactly what another gardener needs to hear. Next, once your new fruit trees are settled in, you'll want to keep the surrounding soil healthy and weed-free, since weeds compete directly for water and nutrients. That's exactly why I'd recommend watching 7 powerful plants that naturally suppress weeds. Transform your garden today. Gardening tips next. It'll save you time, improve your soil, and give your new trees a much better start. Thank you for being part of the Harvest Smarter family. Until next time, grow smarter, harvest better.